Am I the a-hole for not supporting my family after my brother died? I, 22F, have never had a strong relationship with my family. My mother, 41F, was the only grandchild who stayed around for my great-grandparents, so growing up, my brother and I spent a lot of time at their house. They were old-fashioned, and ever since I was old enough to notice, it was obvious they favored my brother. We fought a lot growing up, and for the most part, it seemed normal. But between the ages of 9 and 12, the fights got worse. He would lock me outside in the middle of the night, throw food and drinks at me, and even became physically violent. I remember trying to talk to my family about it. Sometimes he'd get in trouble, but never more than a slap on the wrist, if that. I was told things like, boys will be boys and that's what brothers do. So I just started avoiding him and stayed quiet about it. When my brother was around 13, he moved in with my grandparents because my mother could no longer discipline him. He was taller, stronger, and she was a short woman. We didn't have a father. As my brother grew, my grandparents spoiled him, designer clothes, the newest games, and all his favorite foods in the fridge. My mom, who was financially struggling, would try to keep up, spending her paychecks on new Jordans or $50 jeans for him. She would ask if I wanted Jordans too, but even as a kid, I knew we couldn't afford them. So she'd take me to Goodwill instead, and we'd walk around and have a good time. At that point in my life, I really tried to be family-oriented. I wanted to be friends with my brother. I'd ask him to hang out or do things together, but he never wanted to. He took advantage of my kindness and used our time together to humiliate me. He once made me drink canola oil and smoke weed just so he and his friends could laugh at me when I coughed and almost threw up. He didn't know a thing about me, not my age, not my birthday, not even the month. He never talked to me, always called me slurs, and would push or punch me. He had this thing he called a dead leg, where he'd punch my leg so hard the muscle would lock up. Eventually, I shut him out completely. If he didn't like me, I didn't care. When we were both in high school, we went to the same one for a year. I was a freshman, and he was a senior. We didn't tell anyone we were related and tried to stay out of each other's way. Around that time, he started using drugs. I missed a lot of my own school events because he was constantly in trouble with the law or our family. I'd throw small parties, and he'd show up to sell weed to my friends, instantly becoming the cool one. I was just the weird, semi-goth girl in the middle of Texas. Despite everything, I didn't care anymore. I hated him by then. I knew exactly what kind of person he was, and how good he was at hiding it. He was cruel and malicious. After high school, he had girlfriends he abused, got into fistfights with my mom, and screamed at my elderly grandparents, who still spoiled him regardless. He started doing heroin and Percocet, destroying his brain. My grandparents paid for his college, and he dropped out after the first semester. He wrecked 5 cars in 2 years, some that didn't even belong to him. It felt like an endless cycle of forgiveness, dragging our family through the same pain again and again. When I was 17 and he was 20, he got high and started a fight with me. He beat me so badly that for the first time, I realized how powerless I was to defend myself. He gave me a black eye and nearly broke my leg. I remember lying on the floor afterward, and my grandmother told me not to call the police because it would upset my grandfather. That's the moment I emotionally detached from her. I realized I had never mattered to them. All those years I asked for help, they never intended to give it. It was the day after Christmas. After the fight, as my family calls it, I stayed with my mom in my brother's apartment while he stayed with my grandparents. Not even a week later, I was left alone with him again. I never forgave my mother for that. I was terrified in a way I never want to feel again. Nothing happened that time. He was sober, and we talked for the first time in years. He told me he was glad it was me and not our grandparents or someone else, that he had been high and didn't mean it. But I didn't believe him. High or sober, he was always the same. That's when I decided to leave. I moved out of the apartment and in with a friend. Later, my brother broke my aunt's foot at my grandfather's funeral and went to jail on gun charges. I never spoke to him again. He kept asking my mom to have me talk to him, but I refused every time. He was supposed to serve 8 years but got out in 4. 3 months after his release, he relapsed and died of an overdose on the floor of my grandparents' house, with my grandmother beside him. He was 24. I wasn't upset that he died, just sad for my family, and for myself. I always imagined I'd get my revenge by living a good life and letting him see that I succeeded despite everything. I thought maybe one day we'd talk, and I'd finally get the apology I always wanted. Now, I struggle to talk to my grandmother. She lives alone in that same house, and I've moved 14 hours away. My mom tries to talk to me about my brother, she's grieving too, but I can't sympathize after everything. I still feel hurt, and there's been no real accountability from anyone. I've become the mean, distant, grudge-holding woman who moved away. Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my family, even after that chapter has closed?